the national championship is here. The national championship will be on Monday. It's the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide against the number 3 Georgia Bulldogs, and it is a SEC national championship. Now, for people that are saying that it's SEC bias, no. I mean, you had a Big Ten team in the Final Four in Michigan. Then you had an FBS team in Cincinnati. Like, come on. And honestly, both the two teams that were the best all year, that were the most consistent all year, are playing in the national championship, and it makes perfect sense. I mean, Alabama. It's Alabama. You have the best coach in college football history in Nick Saban. You have the Heisman winner in Bryce Young going against Georgia, which has one of historically the best defense, has been historically one of the best defensive this season in NFL history. I mean NFL in college football history. Not saying they have been the best, but they have limited nearly all of their opponents to under 13 points. Now, of course, when Alabama saw them in the SEC championship, slapped them, and that to me is a big and a huge talking point as to who I think is going to win the national championship. Two things about the SEC championship. When you get embarrassed on national TV, right? And we've seen this a lot, whether it's college football, whether it's college basketball, whether it's NFL, whether it's NBA. When you get embarrassed royally on national TV, and the Georgia Bulldogs got embarrassed in the SEC championship, Alabama did any and everything they wanted. Georgia wanted to make them a running team. Well, they got ran the ball on. Georgia wanted to make them a passing team. Bryce Young went crazy. When you get embarrassed on national TV, it kind of, and you get an opportunity to see that team again, especially in the short time frame that they haven't seen each other. I think it's been 2-3 weeks. Usually the team that got embarrassed comes out a lot hungrier and comes out with a point to prove, saying that was an anomaly. We are on your level, or that was just one game. Let me show you exactly who we are. So, and if we get to Georgia that we saw play Michigan in the college football playoffs, if we get that Georgia, it's going to be a long day for Alabama. Does Alabama have the Heisman winner? Yes. But Georgia's defense is tough. Now, I will say this. And I've said this time and time again. Stetson Bennett, I don't know if you can win a national championship with him, because he doesn't, to me, he is like in my opinion, he's kind of like a Kirk Cousins of college football. He can win your games and he'll put up stats, but when it really matters, now he did have a good season. Don't get me wrong, he's had a good season. But when it really matters, can you trust him? Kirk Cousins hasn't really shown the propensity that he can be trusted in big moments, because when big moments come, he usually flounders more than he succeeds. But this to me is the ideal, and this is the best national championship that we could have gotten, especially this year in college football. I mean, and the 4 teams that made it, to me, are the 4 teams that should have made it: Alabama, Michigan, Georgia, and Cincinnati. A lot of people are upset that Cincinnati made it, but when you go undefeated, come on now. And they dominated people. Now, I did say that it was a great story. Cincinnati was a great story. I mean, you had Travis Kelce when he was in college, but playing Alabama compared to playing Navy is 2 different things. And Michigan, and we'll talk about Jim Harbaugh in a second, but Michigan it's tough when you're going against a better team. So the 2 teams that are supposed to be in the national championship, which is Alabama and Georgia, are the exact teams that should be there. Alabama's offense. Now, I will say this. The keys to the game. Let's do the keys to the game. And the keys to the game is simple. Georgia's defense against Alabama's quarterback and wide receiver tandem. Alabama has looked mortal in a lot of games. I mean, if it wasn't for Auburn just being terrible this year, they could have won the Iron Bowl. Because they can't manage the clock, they lost. Hell, Alabama, was it Florida? Alabama was lost to Florida. So there have been times when Alabama has looked quite human. And there's only been one time this entire season where Georgia has looked mortal, and that was against Alabama 2 or 3 weeks ago in the SEC championship. Georgia's defense, man, they have shut down every single person they played outside of Alabama. Again, I think they are holding opponents to under like 13 points a game. That's every opponent. In fact, I think only one opponent has scored more than 13 or 14 points. And to my knowledge, it's been Alabama. So to me, those are the keys. Alabama's defense is going to be Alabama's defense, which, by the way, it's not the dominant defense that we've seen in recent years, or the dominant defense that usually Nick Saban has. This isn't it. This is the year, at least defensively, that you can get Alabama. It's just when you look on the offensive side, those wide receivers that they have and Bryce Young, And Bryce Young is definitely more than likely the best quarterback Nick Saban has ever had. Then you get iffy. So who am I picking? Who am I picking in the national championship? And this is, I know that history doesn't really doesn't really have any bearings in this in games like this. But I can go two sides of the coin when we talk about history. I can go history as far as 2-3 weeks ago, which Alabama just destroyed Georgia, and it's hard. I think like out of the 5 or 6 times a team has beaten a team and then played them again in the national championship, every single time they've lost, I believe. Maybe once or twice they've won, but almost every single time, the team that has won the first matchup loses the second. Almost every single time. So, of course, if we go about that thinking and that merit, then Georgia just have it in the bag. But again, I look at Georgia. I look at Georgia sports, whether it's the Atlanta Hawks, making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, then getting smacked by the Bucks, or Georgia Bulldogs and their multiple blunders over the years. I mean, we remember when the Migos were on the sidelines and they got smacked. Or about the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, we'll never forget the 28-3 score at halftime. And the fact that Atlanta Falcons haven't been good since. But the stat I am going to bold, or the stat to me that is holding a lot of weight, 2 stats, is of course the stat about the rematch, as far as the team that usually wins the first does not win the second, and the fact that Georgia's defense has been dominant. Now, it's hard for me to pick against Alabama because we know the history Alabama has. We know, Nick Saban is a mentor of Kirby Smart, who, of course, for people that don't know, is the head coach of Georgia. We know that Georgia's quarterback is not better than Alabama's quarterback because Alabama's quarterback just won a Heisman. But again, Georgia's defense, to me, you're destined for a bad game. Now, it's unfortunate that the bad game comes against Alabama in the SEC championship, but you're destined for a bad game. And like I said, once you get embarrassed on national TV, it's pretty much what you do after, and if you ever get a chance to see them again. And since Georgia lost the SEC championship, they look like the Georgia that we've seen all year against Michigan. They look like the Georgia that many people thought had nobody had a shot to go to beat this year. No one. That's the Georgia that we saw in the the Cotton Bowl or the Peach Bowl or something against Michigan. So I'm gonna go with Georgia. I think if you can force Bryce Young to get uncomfortable, and you can really put pressure on these wide receivers that are probably one of the fastest wide receivers that Nick Saban has had. I mean, I can't even say that because Nick Saban has had Judy. Nick Saban has had Julio Jones. Nick Saban has had some incredible wide receivers. Hell, Amari Cooper. But these are some quick wide receivers. But if Georgia can put pressure on Bryce Young, which she can, because Alabama's offensive line isn't the greatest. If you can put pressure on Bryce Young and you can cover up better than you did against in the SEC championship, you can cover their wide receivers. I have Georgia winning. I think because you're not going to need Stetson Bennett to save you, which he hasn't had to. The one game he had to was the SEC championship, which it didn't work. Because that was the one game where Georgia's defense just fell apart. So I think I got Georgia. I have Georgia. Again, it's hard to beat it, especially when you embarrass them on national TV and embarrass them in a big game, which was the SEC championship. And Georgia just has this aura this year that you can kind of see during the when they played Michigan that they were just looking past Michigan. And I'm not saying like they played bad. Like you can tell they were on a mission. Like, hold on, we just lost the first game of the year. We also lost that was the worst loss that we experienced this year, seeing as though it was the only loss we experienced this year. We want to if there's a chance that we can get to the national championship and we can see Alabama again, that is what we want. And once they found out that Alabama was going to be in the national championship, they put their blinders on and let's get it. So I have Georgia. Winning this. I have Georgia winning it, and I think it's going to be a great national championship. I mean, I just hope it's not what was that? What was the BCS championship we got? It was Notre Dame and like Alabama and Alabama being like 49-0 or something. I hope it ain't that. But I just think it's going to be a good game. I think two very hungry teams. I'm excited, and I have every metric outside of course, what Vegas thinks, because Vegas has Georgia as like as the favorites. But every metric I'm going against. I'm going against the quarterback. Who has the better quarterback, which is Alabama. Who has the better running game right now is Alabama. Who has the better quarterback? Coach. That's Alabama. Who has the school record? That's Alabama. Who has the championship moxie? That's Alabama. I'm going against all that because I saw Alabama dog walk Georgia just 3 weeks ago. And with pride, man, you have to have pride. Like, you can't let that happen again. And I don't think it will happen again. So I have Georgia winning the national championship. So